Hi guys, welcome to this video tutorial. I'm going to briefly talk you through importing files into Looking Glass using the file importer. So first off, I'm just going to start Looking Glass, and I'm going to work locally, which means I'm not going to connect to an instance of the Looking Glass server. So first thing I see is my timeline. At the moment we don't have any information in the timeline at all. We have no data stored within the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File Import, and we're going to select some files to import. So using this we can import batch files. So first off, I'm just going to talk you through importing a table file. So we're just going to select one file, and we'll just have a look at it first. We'll open it up inside an Excel, and we can see here that we've got a number of different parameters. So here we've been testing a number of different parts. We've been applying a set number of tests to each one, and we've also been doing a bit of analysis to decide whether the part passed or failed. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parameters in total. So what we're going to do is we're going to import this file using Looking Glass. Let's go back in. So we've selected our file. We're going to start the import. And now the information has been imported into the system. So at the moment now it's sitting in memory inside in our proprietary format. So we're going to save this to a project. I'm working in local mode, so I only really have the local project available to me. I'm going to give it a task. So let's say we imported this as a single file. We're going to give it a name. So we're going to call it after its own file name. Just copy and paste there. And then we have a date as well. So we're going to say that we imported it today. And what we were going to do is we're going to clear on create item. So as soon as we've stored it in the system, we're going to remove it from the importer. And we're just going to click create dataset. So we need to select some data first. So we're actually going to select the one that we want to add. So this is a feature that means you can add multiple batches to the same item, or multiple table files to the same item inside in Looking Glass. So now we've selected our information, we've given it a project, we've given it a task, we've named it, and we've set a date. This is where it's going to appear in the timeline. So the next thing we do is we create dataset. You see it jumps into the storage queue. You want to see that very quickly, and it's now been stored within the Looking Glass system. So what we can do now is we can go into our timeline. We can search for data. So we've one batch object returned, the only item in the system at the moment. And we're just going to have a look at this. So we can look at it via the timeline, or we can open up the list view. So the list view is just an easier to understand view. It just puts everything in a list for you. So we have this item selected inside in our list view. You can see where as we select or unselect, it's doing the same thing in the timeline. So if we want to look at that information then, we can, from the list view, we can look at it from here. Or we can, from the timeline, use the same icon here. So we're going to launch the data viewer. Okay, when we launch the data viewer, you can see we have our data set in memory here. This is the metadata, so we don't have any metadata attached to this data set, so we can close meta for the moment. So now we're looking at the data viewer. So panel on the left is your items panel, and this corresponds directly to the rows in the file that we just imported. So we'll just open up a file there to show you. So we have our parameter names on the top, one over here in the parameter panel inside in Looking Glass, and then we have 100 objects. So we have 100 objects here in our items panel. So essentially this is this data set stored within the Looking Glass system. What we can do from here really easily is we can access and work with the data. So say we want to look at band gap for all the samples that we've selected. We can just select band gap and chart the parameter if we want. We just want to view it and do that really easily. We have statistics available to us. So max, min, average, count, etc. for the items that we're looking at. We can expand that for interquartile range, standard deviation, and we can also make a selection. So if we drag, we can select points in the chart, and we can get the statistics of our selected parts as well. We can also see the items that those points correspond to. So they're inside in our imported batch. There's the information about the batch data set that we imported. So that's great. That's one data set imported. What if you want to import more files? So we'll go back to our file importer, and we'll select the other 3 files that were inside in that folder. So these are also tabular files. So we'll select 3 of them, press open. Now we see the file names here, and we're going to import them into the system. So we're going to start import. So after a couple of seconds, we see that the information has been pulled in. we have our 3 new data sets available in memory. In this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the file names directly and add them directly to the system. So we have these 3 data sets imported. When we press create data set now, it's going to run through the imported data set list and create 3 new items inside in our timeline. So we click create data set, you saw them there in the storage queue. When we go back into our timeline now, if we search again, just doing a search all, we've got 3 new items. So now when we look inside in our list view, they're all at the same date and they're all inside in a task called import single. So they're all layered on top of each other here. So if we go to our list view, we see we've got 3 more items. So what we can do now is we can select all of these items at once. You can do that either by clicking on them individually or using the select all or select none controls up here. So select none clears the selection, so we've deselected everything, and select all selects all. And we can go into our data viewer. Inside the data viewer now, we see that we've got 4 data sets instead of 1, and that we have many more items, we have many more rows. So there's 100 items inside in each of the data sets that we just imported, and they're color coded here for us to see. Now when we go and look at band gap chart again, we're looking at the band gap for all of the data sets that we just imported. If we go back out of this chart again, we can arrange them by the data set that owns them. So we just click filter by data set chart again. So you got 4 different plots on our little chart here, and they're all labeled, etc. And we can look at statistics as before. Say we make a selection across all of them with a certain band. We say what parts do these actually correspond to. We view selected points again, and we see that we've got information on the part numbers and the individual batches that those points belong to. So say you want to perform some kind of analysis on this information. So we want to get the list of parts that have a band gap above a certain level. What we can do is we've all our parts selected here. We can build a new test. So we're going to call it band gap test, and we're going to add a parameter to the test. So what we can do here is we just have a list of parameters that are available to us for our current data set selection. We'll select band gap. We'll remove the upper bound, and we'll just say we want anything that's above 1.1, band gap of 1.1. And we're also going to say that the parameter must exist within the items that we're testing. So we're going to save the changes for this. So the current test has been stored, and now we're just going to apply the test. So the test applied there. Actually, we need to go and look at arrange by test color. So now we can see the items that passed and failed that test. So the items that are green pass the test, and those that are red fail the test. So what we can do now at this point is we can refine our selection to just those items that pass the test. So the items in the selected data sets that we're using that pass the test, the band gap must be above 1.1. So we just press P to select those items that have passed the applied test. So now we have restricted our selection of items to those items that have a band gap of more than 1.1. So what we can do now is, based on the selection here, we can go back and chart band gap and see we've limited our selection to those that are above 1.1. Then we can go and look at this selection of the entire set of data sets. We can clear this, we can export this out to a file for processing in another package. So now we just have, say we want to include information on the parent item, the file source, the date time it was added, the individual entry names. We want to restrict the exported data to those selected items only. So that's only those items that are currently selected within the item panel. And we want to use the selected parameters only. So we're only going to export band gap. We're actually going to remove this. We're going to export the entire data set, but those items that have a band gap above 1.1. So press export. We're given an option of where to save the file. We're going to save it to the same file as the original data sets. Now that's been saved. So now if we go back in, open up our datasets file, we now have our exported dataset, which has just those parts that have a band gap above 1.1 and all the other information included as well. So we can just open this in Excel. So here we have our refined selection. We have all the information, but it's restricted to those band gaps that are above 1.1. So you can use this again, move off into another package. So thanks for watching. Sure to check out Looking Glass on mohago.com. There's going to be regular updates of video tutorials for you to have a look at, just to see the different features in the product. If you have any questions, the best thing to do is contact us directly at info@mohago.com. Find us on Twitter or just give us a call. Numbers on the website. Thanks for watching. Good luck.